everyone, and welcome to another video in our channel, the Nawaris Club channel. My name is Houda Amoukar. I'm 15 years old and I study the third year of secondary school here in Manar al-Khair. And I'm standing here before you to share with you my experience with the story called The Mayor of Casterbridge. The author of our story for today, The Mayor of Casterbridge, is Mr. Thomas Hardy, who also published Far from the Madding Crowd. He was born in the 8th June 1860 in England and passed away in the 11th January 1928 in Dorset, England as well. He is a British novelist, poet, and a short story writer. He was a Victorian realist in the tradition of George Eliot, and he was influenced in his novels by Romanticism. He published so many novels such as Far from the Madding Crowd, The Mayor of Casterbridge, The Return of the Relative, and Tess of the Verbills. Our story, The Mayor of Casterbridge, starts by describing an unhappy-looking couple. There was his wife holding a baby, and another man who seemed very unhappy and also mad. He was a hay cutter, and he was holding a basket filled with knives. This was a couple. They were traveling to a certain village. The man's name was Hansard, and his wife's name was Susan. After they reached this village, the husband felt that he's starving, that he is very hungry, and the same thing for his wife. He wanted to drink alcohol because he was an alcoholic, but his wife refused and told him that he should not drink alcohol, that there is a long way in front of them. They have to look for somewhere that they can sleep in. And if someone noticed that he's drunk, nobody's going to accept having them in his hotel or his house, for example. So she found the firmity. They went there and started sipping some soup. A woman there was looking at Mr. Hansard. She was very impressed with his beauty and attracted by him. And when she heard that he wanted to drink some alcohol, she put some rum in his soup. He drank the first soap of soup, and then the second one, and then the third, until he got drunk, because there was in the soup some rum. After he got drunk, he started dealing very weirdly. But the surprise is that he asked someone to buy his wife. He wanted to sell his wife and his child, because he said that getting married in a very young age was the biggest mistake he has made in his life. So he was like, who can buy my wife? He wanted to sell his wife. His wife did not say anything in the beginning. She was just looking at the ground, very disappointed. But then, after that he exaggerated, she felt so mad. This really drove her mad. So what did she do? She was like, I want someone to buy me. I don't want to live with this husband anymore. He doesn't treat me well. He's not nice with me. He doesn't treat me in a really good way. It's like I'm not his wife. So somebody came in. His name was Mr. Newson. He was unnoticed, because there was a lot of people. He has been watching what the husband was doing since the beginning. He felt so devastated and heartbroken for the woman, and decided that this woman has to live a great life as well, because she seems very nice and she was so pretty. So he wanted to marry her. He wanted to buy her and marry her. So he went to Mr. Hansard and asked him asked him for his wife, and gave him a lot of money. In the beginning, his wife thought that he's gonna tell the man that he doesn't want to sell her, that she's his wife, that he was just joking, that he was very serious. He took the money and started counting them and sold his wife to this man. Miss Susan went with Mr. Newson and her child as well. They went to another country. They went to Canada and lived there together. They got married and lived there together. After Mr. Hansard woke up the next morning, he remembered everything. He remembered what he has done. He remembered that he sold his wife. He felt surprised and shocked and very sad as well. What did he do? That's like the biggest mistake that a human being can do. How can a man sell his wife? I've never personally seen this before. So he started looking for his wife. Everybody told him that nobody knows Mr. Newson, that this man, nobody knows him. He just came once. So the first thing he did is that he went to the church and promised that he will never drink alcohol for 20 years and kissed the Bible. After he left, he spent a lot of days and months looking for his wife, but he couldn't find her. This is when he thought that maybe she passed away, or maybe this man did not take care of her, or maybe she traveled to another country. He spent years looking for her. He spent 18 years looking for her. In these 18 years, he decided to change and become a better person. So he started working very hard to achieve his goals and his objective and become very successful and become a better man. And also he was like putting his best foot forward to get whatever he deserves. And the surprise that he became the mayor of a village called Casterbridge. Miss Susan, in all this period, did not forget Mr. Hansard. And she was like looking, and she was just looking for an opportunity to go and look for him. Her husband became a fisherman, and he went to the sea once. He was like staying there for about two to 3 months. After these 3 months, she got the news that her husband drowned in the sea and that he passed away. After these 18 years, Miss Susan came back to this village with her daughter, Elizabeth Jane, and started looking for Hansard. She went to the same place he sold her in, asked some people about him, and they remembered her. They were like, he left the village many years ago. He's not here anymore. But the woman, if you remember, the woman who put the ram in the soup, who was attracted by his beauty, told her that she got some news of Mr. Hansard, that he traveled to another village called Casterbridge. So she went there with her daughter Elizabeth Jane. After they arrived, her daughter was starving. She was very hungry. So they started looking for some bread. A woman told them that there is no good bread here in Casterbridge, because the mayor of Casterbridge, although that he earns a corn business, he has made a lot of mistakes. The life in Casterbridge is not good anymore. So they started looking for a place so they can stay in. But before that, they saw that there were a lot of people, like they heard a lot of laughter, and there were a lot of people standing somewhere. It was next to a very luxurious and glamorous hotel. When Elizabeth Jane asked, somebody told her that there is a reunion between the mayor of Casterbridge and the most important and powerful people in Casterbridge. When Susan looked at the mayor of Casterbridge, she was surprised. She was very surprised. The mayor of Casterbridge is her ex-husband Hansard, who sold her. That was so crazy for her. How can a hay catcher become a mayor of Casterbridge? The man who told them that this was a reunion between the mayor of Casterbridge and some important people in Casterbridge told them that Mr. Hansard is the mayor of Casterbridge, that he was just a poor hay cutter who had no money, but he worked really hard and he started his own business. He left the hay cutter to earn a business and become a very successful businessman. And because he was very successful, the people in Casterbridge made him become the mayor of their village. Elizabeth Jane and her mom went to an hotel because they wanted to stay there. But they had no money. How can they pay this hotel? They had no money. So her daughter Elizabeth went to a landlady there, and asked her if she can stay with her and her mom in a room in this hotel, and she's gonna work and help to pay the accommodation. The woman was very nice and friendly, and she accepted. Elizabeth Jane started serving, washing the dishes, do all the chores and stuff like that. And one day she went to a room. This room was of someone called Donald. Donald was a very successful and compassionate and ambitious man, and also very charming. He was sitting there with some people, and those people were very impressed by him. He started singing to them. He was very talented and creative. This is when Elizabeth Jane realized that she's crazy in love with him, and felt like he has a very good sense of humor. like they have the same personality. They have a lot of common things in their characters. So after the next day, Mr. Donald called Mr. Henchard and told him that the people in Casterbridge are talking negatively about him because there is no bread, because there is no good bread, no good food in Casterbridge. Mr. Henchard said that he can't do anything, that he can't change anything. He tried a lot, he made a lot of efforts, he worked really hard to change that, but he couldn't. So Mr. Donald started giving him some methods and techniques to ameliorate the food quality. Mr. Henchard was very impressed and asked Mr. Donald to be his store manager. In the beginning, Mr. Donald hesitated and he was like he has to travel the next day to America. Mr. Henchard tried to persuade him to stay and become his store manager, and that he can give him like a lot of money and made him become more successful and bring him more opportunities. But Mr. Donald did not accept because he was like, I talked to other people. I had to travel the next day to America. When Elizabeth Jane heard his phone call, she felt sad and devastated also. He's gonna leave the next day. Okay, the next day, Miss Susan asked her daughter Elizabeth Jane to deliver a message to Mr. Henchard in his office, a letter. So Elizabeth Jane went to Mr. Henchard and she was surprised that she found Mr. Donald there as well. And she found out that he became the new manager and that he's not going to travel to America and that he's going to stay in Casterbridge. This made her very, very happy. This really filled her heart with joy and happiness. When her turn came, she entered the office of Mr. Henchard, gave him the message. Firstly, she introduced herself and then gave him the message. This was like the best moment in Mr. Henchard's life. His wife is still alive and his daughter is still alive as well. So maybe he can make them this is maybe his opportunity to apologize to his wife. So he gave a message to Elizabeth Jane and asked her to give it to her mom. He asked them to meet him somewhere in an hotel at a certain time. So when they met, Susan revealed everything to her daughter Elizabeth Jane. She told her that this is her father and that they were married. She said the whole story for her. Because in this long duration, Elizabeth Jane had no idea about what is happening. She was just traveling with her mother to another village to meet somebody from her relative. That's what she knew. So after few months, Mr. Henchard married Miss Susan. But he did not tell anyone about what happened, about his past, that he was a very poor hay cutter who sold his wife. He did not tell anyone about this. He was like, this is my wife. He was pretending that Susan is his new wife and that Elizabeth Jane is his stepdaughter, not his real daughter. But then we have the appearance of a new character, who is Miss Lucetta. Miss Lucetta was romantically involved with Mr. Henchard in the period when his wife was not with him, when he's the wife of Mr. Nelson, when she left to Canada. And when she knew that Mr. Henchard, she came back to the village, and when she knew that Mr. Henchard married Miss Susan, she felt sad about that. This was like the worst moment in her life, because she thought that maybe when she knew that Henchard became the mayor of Casterbridge, she was like, maybe I can come back to Casterbridge and we can get married and live happily ever after together, because we have always wanted this. This did not happen because she found out that he's married right now. This is when she met Mr. Donald, the corn manager. She fell in love with him. They got married and lived together. But because a lot of people knew that she was romantically involved with Mr. Henchard, she did not want anyone to tell her husband. So what did she do? She asked Mr. Henchard to send her all the love letters and pictures she used to send him when they were in a relationship, when they were dating. Mr. Henchard did that. he sent all the messages and the romantic, like all the letters and pictures, but with the man who is not like that you can't trust. This man who was delivering the messages opened the letters and the pictures and showed them to everybody. Now everyone knows about the relationship that was between Mr. Henchard and Lucetta. And her husband Donald knew that. This really ruined Lucetta's psychological case and made her pass away. She died after what happened, because this really spoiled her reputation. Mr. Donald was going through a very hard time because his wife passed away because of a very absurd reason, because of some people who because of those people who were trying to ruin, to spoil her reputation. That's what happened. Miss Susan passed away as well. She passed away, and when she passed away, Mr. Henchard found a letter where Miss Susan was revealing that Elizabeth Jane is not his daughter, that the baby they were having passed away, and that she gave birth to with Elizabeth Jane after she got married with Mr. Nosen. This is when Mr. Henchard found out that Elizabeth Jane is not his daughter. That she's not his daughter. His real baby passed away. What I personally expected after that Mr. Henchard is gonna forgive his wife Susan and take care of Elizabeth Jane and deal her like she's his real daughter and take care of her. But this did not happen. He started insulting Elizabeth Jane very cold without thinking about her feelings and being so mean to her. This is what made her leave Casterbridge and go to another country. And Mr. Donald also, when he found that Elizabeth Jane and this whole duration was in love with him, he decided to go and marry her. After they married, they lived in another country. And then we have the appearance of a new character. Not a new character, but the appearance of Mr. Nosen. He did not join in the sea. He was still alive. He went and see his daughter Elizabeth Jane. But she was she treated him very coldly. She was like, where were you in this whole duration? Me and my mom have been through a lot of difficulties and troubles and hard stuff, but you were not with us. And you will live in your life happily ever after, happily, normally, in a normal way, like nothing has happened. So, Mr. Henchard was going through a hard time as well. And Elizabeth Jane felt so sad about what she has done to Mr. Henchard. So she went and looked for him. They told her that he left Casterbridge to live in a countryside. She spent a lot of months looking for him. And when she found him, the sad news is that she found out that he passed away. And left a letter saying that his only wish in life is that nobody remembers him because of all the mistakes he has done in life. This is the end of our story, The Mayor of Casterbridge. In my opinion, I think that the story, The Mayor of Casterbridge by Mr. Thomas Hardy was such an awesome story, with a very rich vocabulary and an easy style of writing that can be easily understood by the readers. And that's why I decided to give it as a mark 5 on 5.